Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast between Mouse Sports' Mana and ESC's Goody here on Shattered Temple. We have Goody spawning as the purple Terran at the 9 o'clock position. Meanwhile, we have Mouse Mana spanning as the blue Protoss in the 6 o'clock position here on Shattered Temple. This is game 1 in a series. Hopefully you guys do enjoy this. I believe this is from the esports league, and the games are now pretty much underway. You can pretty much see both players doing a standard opening so far. Nothing too strange. There's that pylon there. It will delay the probe just for a little bit. Meanwhile, over here, Goody should be setting up a supply depot in just a moment. There it is. And that SCV will be able to return and start mining once again. Now, I assume this SCV will perhaps build a barracks over here and then build supply depots here and here with a bunker here. That seems to be a very common strategy as of late, as opposed to building the first supply depot here, as it does take in and eat into a little bit of your economy during the early portion of the game. It's something that you can afford to do against a Protoss, since a Protoss player cannot easily rush you during that early game. There is no, say, 6-gate Zealot rush. Anyways, we can now see a probe making its way down, and it will be doing some scouting in the counterclockwise, or in the clockwise direction, excuse me. It will be able to pass over the center in just a moment, and then perhaps get a little bit of harassment here. Goody is opening up with that refinery, so he is not going for any one base all in with the Marines. He's just going to simply tech up. He may do a fast expansion a little bit later, perhaps adding on a tech lab, but I think he wants to do a bit of scouting to figure out what his opponent is truly going for before he commits to any strategy right now. SCV did take a little bit of damage there. Now continuing to wander around, we can see a Marine now being trained. No supply depot yet. Goody needs to get up a supply depot in just a little bit of time. Is he going to build it on the front door or perhaps build it back over here? He is still building it back over here and now creating a little bit of a wall-in position. So this wall-in position makes it much more difficult for units to try to do any harassment back here. Very effective against, say, Blue Flame Hellions, but I'm not quite sure how effective it will be against, say, a Protoss player. At all. You can see that the probe now just sitting there on the low ground, as we see the SCV now wandering around as well. We are going into a double gas by Mana, so I'm curious as to what Mana really wants to go for in this matchup. Mana, by getting up another this assimilator, he could be going for a lot of sentries and then expanding into a nexus down over here, as sentries only cost 50 minerals each and do become much more powerful the earlier you work them in, as they do get a lot more energy. A factory now being added on as well. It looks like we are going into a reactor, so it looks like we are going to be having some Hellions in just a moment, or it could be standard Marine tank. I have seen a lot of Terran players just add a reactor onto the barracks, add on a tech lab as well. The tech lab training up siege tanks while the reactor training up Marines, and then trying to do a one base timing push to deal a little bit more damage. We are also going into a robotics facility here as well, so I'm curious as we are getting the robotics facility if we're going to see Immortals or Colossi. 3 Marines up on that high ground, making sure that this probe is unable to get any scouting information at all. No players have had any success so far trying to set up an expansion. No nexus here, no command center that I can spot, as we are now going into that tech lab. We do have, I thought I heard one Hellion. Yeah, so a Hellion did make its way down. Down goes that center probe there. There is still this probe back over here. I'm surprised that the Hellion did not scout it. And now a Stalker and a Sentry may shut down this Hellion. The Hellion trying to do a run by, and it's not going to be able to run by all too well, taking already 50 points of damage, down to 40 hit points, and now being forced to return home. We are getting a medevac. We are getting a siege tank. No siege tech just quite yet. More Marines still being trained. I believe the Hellion did perhaps scout out that probe there as an SCV. Now perhaps just coming over to repair the Hellion. Not going to build a command center at all. Still no siege tech, and another supply depot needs to be built as well. Otherwise, Goody will be supply blocked. Spoke too soon. Another supply depot just finishing there. He could be adding in or queuing up another siege tank, and then pushing out with 3 siege tanks and a group of Marines with medevac support. That is a very common strategy. The Marines there to try to deal damage and try to remove the shields on those Immortals, as Immortals do deal a fair amount of damage, and down goes one probe. So probe has been destroyed. No siege tech still, so this is a bit of a surprise. He needs to get that siege tech, otherwise these siege tanks are not going to be that effective at all. There are some SCVs. Are those SCVs on auto repair? No, the SCVs are not even on auto repair, as an observer now moving out as well. Siege tech about 70 seconds from being completed, but he could have started that much earlier. SCVs are now in position, but there are too many Zealots, not enough fortified position there. Marines now fighting back. SCVs in that front line. The Immortal trying to get some damage, unable to do any damage to that siege tank at all, as the Hellion now getting some more damage once more. The siege tank now gonna perhaps shut down this pylon. Is it gonna trap an Immortal? Yes, it does trap an Immortal, as Goody now continues this pressure. The Immortal down to 37 hit points. The medevac trying to heal up even more units, and the Stalkers just maybe too much. That Immortal needs to get shut down. The Immortal does get shut down. Finally, one siege tank low on hit points. Perhaps it will get picked up, and now the Marines are just continuing to fight back and heal up even more units. Goody pushing without siege tech, and this is a very dangerous game. I believe that the medevac is going to be forced to drop down. A siege tank is dropped. It does get destroyed. More Marines coming in. The siege tank now continuing to fight back. Another Immortal being brought in, and it looks as though Mana has successfully countered or stopped this push. 36 food compared to 41. Army compositions not very much left at all. Marines and Hellions once again being re-added. Another command center being rebuilt, as a medevac now needs to be added. And Goody, I think Goody, if he had just timed his siege check and gotten it down a little bit earlier, he would have been much more successful, forcing those Stalkers to try to engage. Down goes that Hellion there, and it looks like Mana looking for some blood. Will be able to get a very strong counterattack. Supply depots trying to be rebuilt as well. There is already an observer up on that high ground, as a pylon being warped in over here, and they will be able to warp in units along that backside. And now warp in, and then just simply drop Stalkers in as well. Does he spot this? No, Goody does not spot this at all. Not quite sure why he just doesn't. Oh, picking up some more Zealots, and now in comes the push. Units are going to be warping in here. Mana doing a great counterattack. Instead of over here by that front door, there is a siege tank in siege mode, as the Marines are now trying to engage as well. Warping in onto that high ground. Units could be coming in. A round of Stalkers now coming in. The siege tank way too far away. And Mana with a brilliant counterattack and putting down the pressure. The Immortal now trying to pull back. It looks like it is low on shields. It does not want to engage. It may try to jump back into that Warp Prism as well. The Warp Prism now being forced to pull away, down to 50 hit points. The shields on that Immortal should be recharging in just a moment, as the Stalkers are now going after supply depots, perhaps trying to supply block Goody. Siege tanks now slowly rolling forward once again. Stalkers going after that low hit point siege tank, or what is now a low hit point siege tank, but the Warp Prism destroyed by Marines. A nice focus fire there, and now Mana is in trouble after losing an Immortal and a Warp Prism completely needlessly. 35 food, 37 food compared to 38. It looks like a counterattack is about to come down, and these Marines, even without stim, I don't think stim, no stim just quite yet, are still going to be able to deal a lot of damage. There's still this proxy pylon over here. SCV's trying to repair, and Goody, after holding off that attack, another counterattack coming in. Marines dropping straight into the mineral line, and this is going to be bad news. Mana is in trouble. Probes now being forced to run away. It looks like there was enough Stalkers nearby, or enough minerals, and it looks like the Marines are now just perhaps going to focus down those Stalkers. The Stalkers are now being forced to pull back once again. There is no reinforcements able to warp in at all, and I believe Mana will be forced to say GG as long as these Marines are able to get back. Come on, pick up that last Marine. What are you doing? Not quite sure. The Stalkers now going to finish that off there, and now with somehow 2 Stalkers able to push back 8 Marines and a medevac. I believe Goody completely played into Mana's hand there. He could have easily taken this fight, and not quite sure why he didn't do so. You can now see a missile turret being added on the front. SCVs and mules being mined or called into position over here. It looks like another medevac drop will be coming off on this bottom right-hand side. Not enough probes to really deal any damage. Perhaps the probes will be transferred over. Marines now coming into position once more. Stalkers are being transferred. Probes getting the memo that they shouldn't engage right now, as the Stalkers are now making another move, and I really think Goody had the opportunity to shut down all those Stalkers and completely missed a very, very prime opportunity to take the lead there. Stalkers attempting to destroy these destructible rocks. It looks like that medevac will just return home. Blue Flames tech now being researched as well. A reactor being added onto this factory here, so we will be getting a lot of Hellions. Goody now in the economic lead, 26 SCVs with 2 mules. Those mules giving in a very strong economic advantage, as we are now seeing on 31 probes compared to 27, but both sides just trying to train up more and more workers. The medevac taking a very, very long way home in order to get back there. One Marines up on the high ground, shutting down that pylon. Also a missile turret in that location. The missile turret didn't get a kill, but I believe the observer was destroyed. Yeah, Mana no longer having an observer inside the base, being forced to play in the dark. 70 food compared to 63, as double supply depots now being called in. Also a Twilight Council coming in as well. Mana is running off of 3 gateways so far. He is getting up that Twilight Council and the robotics facility. Absolutely no robotics bay at all. The Immortals, though, a very strong counter to those siege tanks, as siege tanks deal a lot of damage, but very, very slowly. Perfect for those hardened shields, as mules are now being just whittled away. Goody now sitting on 33 probes compared to 33 SCVs compared to 38. As we may be going in for a Blue Flame Hellion drop. So Goody now countering with Blue Flame Hellions. Perhaps one more Hellion should be coming in. The Stalkers and Immortals now trying to return all the way home. Goody could have just dropped straight into the base. It looks like the Stalkers are going to be able to come back in. The Hellions now coming in along the far side as well. Down goes one quick probe there. The Stalkers and Immortals attempting to counter that. But where is that drop? The drop should be coming in just a moment. The Hellions from over here, and now a drop straight into the mineral line. This is going to be very, very devastating. You can see the probes already coming in. Probes just absolutely trying to run away, not able to do so. It looks like all those probes are going to clump up together. More probes getting destroyed. And this is a horrible, horrible day to be a probe in the mineral line of Mana. Multiple probes just absolutely getting wasted. 30 probes, 31 probes now destroyed. An army of Stalkers over here. There is still a lot of probes here. Nothing to drop into that mineral line, as perhaps the Hellions looking to do another counter push. Stalkers are attempting to take the gold mineral patch here. Overall worker count 39 to 29. As the Hellions, just simply going to get destroyed. Force field not catching up. The Immortal finishing off there. So nicely done. No Hellion run-bys at all, as Goody now builds up another command center. And this game, no one really able to put the final nail in the coffin. A lot of damage dealt to each other, but both players unwilling to really commit to a long-term fight. It looks like a drop may be coming in. Where is that path? Yeah, the path looking to drop in along this backside here, and perhaps run units down the ramp, and that is going to be a very, very nicely timely drop, and that may get even more worker kills. 39 probes compared to 39 SCVs at this stage. It looks like Goody slowing down his SCV production. He is currently supply blocked, and this is really starting to hurt him. He's only mining off of 1 mineral patch right now compared to the gold mineral patch that Mana currently has at this stage. But medevac still flying around. It looks like it will get there eventually. Command centers can land there now. It looks like it will land there in just a moment, as we are now going into a Ghost Academy as well. Level 1 air weapons upgrade in addition to a Void Ray being added. And the medevac just simply hiding off over here. It looks like perhaps a drop could happen into this mineral line, but there are a lot of more Immortals as well. Where is this drop going to take place? Is he going to perhaps do a double drop to try to pull some attention away from a different location? Perhaps put some pressure on the front door. Goody has a very large army, a very strong economic lead. Hellions now dropping straight in the mineral line. And are they going to be going after the probes? Yes, probes now getting toasted along multiple locations. Multiple probes just getting destroyed. The Hellions need to go after probes, but not quite sure why they were attacking the Stalkers instead, and that was a really, really bad just mix-up by Goody. Goody not that far ahead, 45 to 44 SCVs. No more SCVs being trained. Another orbital command being built over here, but really Mana taking control of the situation, being able to macro up. He is still behind, but Goody has not been able to capitalize on his advantages at all. Goody does have a lot of siege tanks in the center ground. This will be very, very difficult to break. There are also a decent number of Marines, but the Marines do not have stim. There are Vikings in the air, though, and the Vikings should be able to shut down those Void Rays in just a matter of seconds. Another Nexus now coming in from Mana, and all it would take is one bad trade by Goody for Mana to be able to get back into this game and take the lead. There are no weapons upgrades at all on these Stalkers. Only the Void Rays have, only the air units have weapons upgrade, and you can see that Mana is purposely hiding these air units off to the side. Stalkers now blinking in and able to get a lot of damage, getting some damage onto those SCVs. Another SCV getting destroyed. The siege tanks need to perhaps do a bit of a push. They are going to siege up. Mana going to take a lot of damage. Is he going to back off with those Stalkers? Yes. Able to back off, taking one round of siege. And that is all, as these destructible rocks will get destroyed as well. There are a lot of proxy pylons in play in order to warp in units halfway across the field, as we are now getting another Void Ray as well. Currently sitting on an army of 3 Void Rays, a 4th Void Ray just joining as a 5th one also being trained. 4,000 mineral army versus 5,600, as Goody moving out with a very, very strong army. But the key question is, will it be enough to destroy? There are a decent number of... No Immortals. The Immortals need to engage. Otherwise, they're going to get destroyed. Zealots now trying to engage as well. Siege tanks will siege, and now backing off there. The Immortals need to be very, very careful. The probes over here, Mana may get simply destroyed. Stalkers need to engage, and now in come the Void Rays. Void Rays coming in, and it looks like the Vikings are trying to kite. It doesn't look like they're going to be able to deal that much damage. The Vikings now pushing back over here as Stalkers coming in from that far side, and I believe Mana, though, who was just not ready for this large of an army, gets overwhelmed by Goody's macro. Goody could have dealt a lot more damage. It always felt like Goody was one good harass away from taking the game, but just did not do so. Finally actually able to put the final nail in the coffin with so many siege tanks and a very, very well-timed EMP shockwaves. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed game 1 of the series between Mouse Sports' Mana and ESC's Goody.